Hello, I'm Zandra Sanglin Burns, the witch, here in my showgirl beret to follow up on my first impressions of the album and to talk more about this moment, this showgirl moment that we are all experiencing. And I have a lot to say about it, so I thought we just have a chat. This is not a Taylor Swift jumper. This is actually a roller coaster jumper for the roller coaster Sick, and Sick Silk, but that's funny. So I am really glad that I recorded my reaction because for that moment in time that you got to witness, or you can go back and witness if you want, it got to be just an album for me, just a new album by one of my favorite artists that I was listening to for the first time. And in that space of time, in that quiet, I was able to enjoy it as such. And I could already tell, that this moment was going to be huge around the event of this album coming out and how huge Taylor is in the monoculture. Maybe the only remaining huge artist in the monoculture, or like brand that is just so present. And so to give you some context, I have been avoiding hearing other people's responses to this as much as I can, but I've still seen some of it by accident. And I have been informed by some of my close friends in like long form conversations. I really love that venue actually for sharing information is having a chat with a friend who has information to bring, and it comes from this like warm, loving place of like, let's talk about what's going on, rather than just being exposed to it. And so I'm going to respond to some of the hearsay that I've heard, but also just update you on my feelings on the project in general. So first of all, there's like this expectations versus reality that I think can cause some whiplash when it first arrives. And so I think fans were thinking, like I was along this road of like, because the response to Tortured Poets was it was long and sprawling, this was her response to that, doing something that was concise and compact and purposeful and like really considered and well edited, and kind of like, because she's working with the same producers as she was on 1989, we're comparing it to that of like, that was such a meticulous project that she put so much, there was so much like attention to detail in that project. However, a lot was riding on that project of 1989. This was a pivotal moment in her career when she was shifting from country into pop. And she's now in a place that she can do literally anything and it will be a commercial success. So I failed to consider that huge shift of context from that era to this one. And it really feels a lot more in Life of a Showgirl, like rather than a polished, concise, edited gem, it feels more like she was having a lot of fun making it and was just like, yeah, just send it. Just put it out. Which is its own, which I'm not critical of. In fact, it's something that I am tuning more into in my own creative expression of like, let's not overthink this too much. Let's let this be messier than I would usually have standards for. And maybe I will swing back the other way at some point, but that's part of like moving with different ways of expressing creatively is trying out different ways of doing it. And that's something that Taylor has always done and seems to be really really committed to as an artist is like, let's try different genres, let's try different collaborators. And this feels like her just send it era, and also her daddy era, because there's a lot of her like owning her patriarchal success in this album that I think is confronting. It's been a little confronting for me, but overall, by the way, I don't know if I like this or not. I don't know how I feel about this. And I just wrote an essay about this, where I'm like, I hope that people don't ask me, because I don't have a fully formed opinion. And how can I? Because it just came out less than a week ago. And so I'll get back to the daddy era thing in a moment. But I think whenever we're talking about Taylor Swift in this day and age, especially, by which I mean like at the peak of her fame and visibility, we need to see her not as, we need to not like focus on her, the individual, but on what she is representing in a broader context. And so there's this pressure to respond right away, to have an opinion right away, to have processed everything you possibly can from this project right away, because everybody is inundating you with their opinions. And so you have to be like grounded in something. Or if you don't care about it and you're hearing these opinions anyway, there's this pressure to like to be on the right side of it, you know, of like, the correct side of how are we as a monoculture handling this moment? Like, what are people saying? Okay, where do I fit into that? How do I respond to that? And it's very overwhelming. And it also feels quite silly that like this is a pop album. However, as I always say, if something is just for fun, we need to take it really seriously, because fun is the vibration that people tune into when they are at ease, or they're seeking to be at ease, and that's a vulnerable state. And so fun can be used as a way of dismissing something that is problematic, or from not holding somebody or yourself accountable to what something stands for, or how that's hurtful to somebody, because you're like, oh, it was just for fun. That was that, don't think too much about it because it was just for fun. Well, it's like at whose expense? So this is beyond Taylor as an individual. This is beyond Swifties as a subculture. This is how we are treating each other on the internet and in life, is with this combative nature. And there's no coincidence that this is happening at the Aries full moon here, as this launch is happening. It's a very like, it's a very charged battle zone kind of energy. And at the same time, there are actual wars going on. And so it's like, this is the thing that we're caring so much about, that we're so heated about. Like, it feels silly as a person to care about that and to be like fixated on that, but it's all connected. And I think part of why we're taking this album so seriously, and how people are responding to it so seriously, is a lot of like emotions are coming out about everything, and it's just being directed into this right now. But we're in a strange time that I'm actually finding it more relaxing to delete Instagram from my phone and not be listening, because people are talking about Taylor Swift so much. And in the quiet, I'm finding myself wanting to read my anti-racism book that I've been in the middle of for a while. I'm like, now is the time. I'm going to dedicate some hours to this. This is actually more relaxing than hearing people talk about this pop album. So isn't that interesting as well? And I always say, like, when you are tuning into what you want to do for fun, really let yourself be surprised by what the course of your heart is driving you to, because that shouldn't be fun, right? Like, reading about racism shouldn't be fun. And yet sometimes that's what I desire to do, because it puts me at ease to read people, to read people's work, that people that are smarter than I am, that are more informed than I am, that can like draw some connective threads for me that help me understand what needs to be decolonized today, so that like that puts me at ease, that helps me feel better. And so I think part of listening to this album and feeling like I wish this were a little more considered and intersectional actually reflected back to me that I'm always wishing that I'm more considered and more intersectional. And so it actually feels restorative right now to access that side of me, to pay more attention to that side of me rather than engaging in the culture war that is going on. And by the way, I want to invite you, this is time sensitive. This is what I'm teaching right now. This is what I am guiding people through. I am running an 8-week fun club that starts very soon. It's on October 25th. So if you're seeing this in time, I invite you to join us. So we are examining like how do we tune into what we actually enjoy for fun, especially in times of conflict, and caring about that. Like how do we have fun while not spiritually bypassing or using it as a way to escape from reality? Like how do we combine those two things that we care about and actually have fun and actually enjoy ourselves? And I've been practicing this a lot through this Taylor Swift launch. So I have a lot to show you guys. And if you're interested, the curriculum is out now. The details will be on my website at zondrathewitch.com. You can book a call with me to have a chat about it as well. So it's gonna be really fun. So we're doing like a curriculum first of like, it's about returning to your elemental nature. So it's guided through the elements of earth, air, fire, and water, and exploring like the concept. And then the last 4 weeks are the field trip weeks, where you start to go out into the world, do little projects or do a little artist date, something for each of the elements to actually build your fun repertoire of how you can access this, how you can integrate this into your daily life. So that is Zondra's Fun Club. I hope you'll join me. But yeah, it's really wild that it's so overwhelming to talk about Taylor Swift on the internet right now. It's actually easier to learn about decolonization. So that's that. It's funny. And I also feel good because I was reading a book called Black Victorians that I can link. It's really I love reading about things that I don't know enough about. And that's kind of the clunky way in which I like to show up in my activism as well, where like I'm not an activist as my career or as my like main focus or in my training, but I do think that we have a responsibility as individuals, especially as witches, to do this work and to consider decolonization and dismantling white supremacy. Like that all needs to be considered in everything that we're doing. And so my way of doing that is through how do we reconcile with that and the things that we love, because what's being exposed more and more is that under capitalism and consumerism and patriarchy, there is very little in like the mainstream that we can enjoy that isn't problematic in some way, that isn't linked to funding weapons, that isn't linked to, that's the one that came to mind, but we'll get into it with Taylor Swift as well. Like it's all transphobia and Harry Potter. It's very difficult to avoid that being an aspect of something that you enjoy. And so one way of dealing with it, well, you have a few options, right? So one is to just boycott and shut things out Another option is to pretend like nothing's happening, which I think is becoming harder and harder for people to avoid. Another option is to learn how to handle that duality in yourself and make decisions for yourself about what is actually fun, and how can you stay grounded in your beliefs and in your commitment to positive world change within the thing that you're doing for fun. And so for some people, this album might be a turning point where they say, this isn't fun for me anymore. I need my artists to be more thoughtful around what they're representing. And it's too much of a burden to like stand by that anymore. Because the thing is about being a Taylor Swift fan is that there is a burden of representing the brand in a way that you don't feel that for a smaller artist that nobody's heard of. There's not that like association. And I have so much compassion for anybody for whom this is a turning point. And they're like, you know what, I can't, this isn't fun for me anymore. Because I've been there with Harry Potter, where I was like, do I even want to go to this new movie? Like, even if, like, taking boycotting out of the equation, do I want to see it? And realizing that the answer was no, it's not fun for me to go anymore. That was really sad. And so if that's you for this album, or if you think that might be you, I have so much compassion for that transition from whatever degree of fan you are or were to wherever you're going, because that transition is important. That matters. And then for those of us, because I think I'm in this group here, this next group I'm about to describe, where it's like, oh gosh, I don't completely agree with the way that she's handled a lot of things, but it's not enough for me to leave. I still find some value in this and some enjoyment in this, and I want to. I'm still here, and I don't want to be like. I want to be grounded in who I am while also enjoying this thing. That's a place to be as well. And then there's another like more vulnerable place that maybe I was in when I was younger, around like, well, I'm a fan of this thing, and therefore I'm loyal to this thing, and I'm going to find ways of defending this person who is responsible for this thing. And like I hold that with tenderness as well, because sometimes we want to be in that space of like, if you invested in something, whether it's your time or your money in an Eras tour ticket, or in like just going to a really expensive play, or it doesn't even have to be really expensive, just like dedicating your time to a thing, you want it, you're rooting for it, and you want it to be good. And so sometimes that can turn into like doubling down and justifying how you feel about it, or how you want to feel about it, as a way of feeling better about the investment that you have made. And so I want to be in that middle place of, yes, I am enjoying this, and also I can have my own criticisms of it, I can be true to my own values throughout. Okay, we're going back to the daddy era thing, like I promised. So I think something that really surprised me about it, there's like, I'm not going to say if I like it or not, because, no, I like it. Okay, I like it. I was surprised by how like Capricorn this album is. And it really shows up in the movie, where Taylor's walking us through her thought process for a bunch of the songs and giving us a little introduction of what it means to her. And in between, we're seeing her being a boss, directing the scenes in the music video. And it seems very clear to me that she wants us to see just how hard she works. And a bunch of the songs that she describes are like, opalite is like a man-made crystal. So it's about making your own luck. And it's about like creating success for yourself. Wood is about that as well. Hilariously, I did not notice the degree of innuendo there was in Wood during my first listen through. So if you want some ace representation, you can go watch my video about that. This was so embarrassing. This is like the most embarrassing thing about that video that I did. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to leave it up. Is that I didn't notice. But you know what? It was a blessing that I got to listen to that song and simply be bored and confused by it, without understanding the full extent of what it was about. Like, I could hear some of the innuendo and I thought like, okay, that's a line that feels a little crass to me, but I didn't realize she like the whole chorus is about that. So, but if you really listen to the lyrics, because I was trying to understand like, okay, what is this song? Because she is talking about luck and superstition in the beginning. It seems like she just wanted to she liked the knock on wood, like bit as a musically. And then it just went off the rails. And this is what I mean by she's in her send it era of like, whatever, that's kind of funny. I'm not going to overthink it. I'm not going to ask if it's, she, you know what she loves to do? She's like, if a man wrote this song, people wouldn't be so critical of it and think that it's too graphic. And so she's like, yeah, I'm going to do that. And that's what I mean, where she's like, that's her form of rebellion. But it feels like Barbie movie feminism, and don't get me started on the Barbie movie because that's a whole other thing. But it's like if women were in charge in the way that men are in charge under our current patriarchal system, things would be better, which I don't subscribe to as the solution to all of this. And she's doing some matriarchal moves in doing some actual, like offering healing and alchemy in this, in other songs. But sometimes she likes to dick around, like quite bluntly. And she loves to put on this drag persona that she started with the man in the Lover era of like, if I were a man, I could get away with this. And so that contributes. But yeah, it really feels like with Wood, she was like, okay, but the actual storyline of it is I thought that I was unlucky, and then I realized that I don't believe in luck, and actually I make my own luck. And then I met somebody else who also makes his own luck, and now we're having lots of sex. But the last part of it gets like distracts from the main plot of what the song actually is. And I find what the song actually is to be even more around like this, you need to make your own luck idea that's running through this album. Feels very like individualistic and very like endorsing hard work, grind culture. While at the same time, it feels like she's worked less hard on this album. So, okay, here's something important contextually that I think we need to remember for this project is that she was writing this while she was on the Eras tour and in between performances of the Eras tour. And so to people who are criticizing her for being bad at songwriting because she's happy now, I think that's a completely misguided take because yes, she's happy, but when she was actually writing the songs, she was working harder than she's ever worked. She's like pushing her body and her whole self harder than she ever has in her life, harder than a lot of people ever have. And I think that like drive to talk about these themes of being self-made so much are a justification of that work ethic, that she was like, I'm signed up for this. This is what I'm doing. I need to keep going with that. And I think that those themes show up in this album in a way that I wasn't expecting them to, and in a way that kind of contrasts with a lot of the tone of the album. Like, Opalite is a charming tune to like dance to, and it's like lighthearted in that way. But when she talks about what it means to her, it's about like pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. And so there are these endorsements of grind culture in this album that I fundamentally disagree with. However, I understand why they're in the album, because she was working herself so hard during its creative process. And so my hope and my suspicion for TS13 is that it'll be a much softer, less intense, worky kind of sound and theme. So I think she's really understanding that no matter what she does, she can't control how people receive it, and how people will twist her words, will literally change her words. So here's a wild example, because I enjoyed the song Canceled when I first listened to it. You can watch me enjoy that, because I understood that it was about her friend Blake Lively, and that it just, I mean, I just watched the Gossip Girl episode the day before, where Blair is trying to get in with this society, these like society women who wear Argyle sweaters that they tie over their shoulders in a certain way, you know what I mean, like pastel. And they're these like stuffy society ladies, and they're like, oh, like we're very impressed by you and your GPA and everything, but the company that you keep, Serena Vanderwoodson, she's like, her skirt's a little too short and the paparazzi are all over her, so you aren't going to stay friends with her, right? And Blair at first is like, oh yeah, like no, of course not. And then she realizes, like, wait a minute, I don't owe these women anything. Actually, I'm going to stand by my friend even though you're slut shaming her. And that's what the song Canceled is about in Taylor Swift's mind. However, by calling it Canceled, she is ascribing it to a bigger thing than just what happened to her friend, which was that a PR company ran a smear campaign about like deliberately ruining her reputation, which is something that we know Taylor has been through as well. That's quite a specific thing to happen. And it feels like we don't like that happened to Blake. But by calling it Canceled, she, in my opinion, has made a mistake of conflating it with other cancellations that are completely different from that. And it's about like holding people to moral standards. But because Taylor is so huge, I wonder what the longevity of this song will be, and also of the term canceled, which is starting to mean nothing. It's starting to have no grounds in where it began. If maybe this is solidifying that fact of like, okay, we need to move on from canceling people or calling it canceling people, because it no longer means what it meant when we started doing that. You know, so I wish that song in particular were more intersectional and considerate. Oh yeah, so this was the point I was going to make. So my friend and I were talking about, we were criticizing the like cloaked in Gucci line about, does this have to be about rich white women? Does this have to be about class and performing class? So we're critical of the actual lyrics. And then I was talking to another friend of mine who's not a Swiftie, who's not listened to a single song, who's not sought out any information about it, and yet knows so much hearsay just because it's so loud and present right now, that she was saying, well, what's with this line that people are sharing online that like she likes her friend's wearing white cloaked hoods like the KKK. And I was like, oh, that's literally not in the song, but that's getting shared around. And Taylor can't control that. And that's what happened in Tortured Poets with the line where they're sharing their favorite decades. And she says, mine is the 1830s, but without all the racists. And people were just quoting my favorite decade is the 1830s and calling her racist. It's like she can't buffer it enough with what she means to like make her meaning clear that like people are going to take her words and change them regardless. So I think that kind of led to this sloppier lyrical project where she's like, it doesn't matter what I say, people are going to decide what it means for me anyway, which I think speaks to like a greater issue in our culture right now of like words do matter, and we should take responsibility for making a clear point, and making a considerate point as well, because even though it's a more cringe song, You Need to Calm Down does at least attempt to include others in the concept of like this. I experience like she's acknowledging her privilege in that song, and she is being an ally to her friends who are part of the LGBT plus community. And it's a weird one that I don't quite want to comment on right now because like a lot of people in the LGBT plus community felt like didn't love that song. So, but she tried, she made it clear like what her stance was. And I think something that's interesting is that I'm hearing a lot of fear that the song Canceled is going to be misconstrued and is like going to be used by the far right or by, well, let's just use one example as like a MAGA anthem. And I think I think that cancels itself out, no pun intended, because one of the few things that Taylor has been vocal about is that she is anti-Trump. And so I don't think that really stands, but I do feel the concern that this song could be used to be mean to each other, basically. And I had that same fear with Look What You Made Me Do, which came out around the same time as the Charlottesville riots, around the same time that Taylor took a little bit too long to respond to comments or to like white supremacists who were calling her an Aryan goddess. It took her her team a little bit too long to say, no, that's not, we're not about that. And so I was worried that Look What You Made Me Do would be used in that context. But correct me if I'm wrong. I think there's more anxiety about what could happen with the song than is actually happening with the song. And when it comes down to it, a lot of people find Taylor so uncool that they're not going to want to use the song in these contexts, Which leads me to Actually Romantic, because I found it really funny, and I actually didn't understand that it was about Charlie XCX, at least in part. I believe it's about a lot of things, because I'm not familiar with the song that she's referring to. I did get that it was about that crowd because of the doing coke line. I was like, oh, I knew that Maddie Healy was involved. But here's my thing. Again, this is wild. Some people are saying that she's perpetuating a victim narrative. Other people are saying she's being too much of a mean girl. And I think what she's actually doing in this song is being quite embarrassing and giving us the gift of getting to witness that. Like she didn't need to write this. And the way that she talks about it, where she's like playing the cool girl of, oh, oh, I actually didn't care. And then you were sending me all of this negative attention, but thanks for the attention, kiss. She's doing it too with this song. If she actually cared about this person not getting that attention, she wouldn't have written it. She wouldn't have released it. She wouldn't I love the alchemy of being like, if somebody is mean to you, then like flirt with it. And I think actually it speaks to the degree of confidence that she has now that people won't think that she's gay because she's like so openly flirting with a woman in a song at last. So good for her, and that she feels comfortable doing that for the sake of my entertainment. I enjoy it, and it feels, I like the tone of it being so sassy. But if it's also a compliment. Like, she's telling us exactly what it is. It's a compliment to Charlie that it's like so clear. There are like little clues that it's about her. She's giving the attention back. So we can't take it too seriously. We can't be like, oh, it's mean. It's not. She's having fun. She's enjoying the little feud. If she really cared and was really bothered by it, she would just hope that person disappeared into obscurity. We know because she's done this before with Calvin Harris, who, when they broke up and it was a bit messy, he tweeted or something. He was like, oh, can't wait for you to write your little song about it. And she has never written a song about Calvin Harris directly. And that feels like, I feel that silence. I've never heard silence quite so loud. Okay, so what other songs what else do I want to say? Let me just get the album real quick. I mean, she has more in common with Katy Perry than she'd like to admit. I do think a big part of this era is her being like, look how hot I look at this age, that you thought I would be retired as a pop star by now. And honestly, good for her. Oh, Fate of Ophelia is my favorite now. I was a bit meh on it after first listen, but I was correct in thinking, because I don't immediately find it so catchy that it's annoying, it has longevity. So that's my favorite now. Still love Elizabeth Taylor. In her track by track, she says that she finds it hard to find mentors, but Elizabeth Taylor is one of her mentors. And I just like, I relate to that. I feel for her on that front, because what I do is so niche. It can sometimes feel lonely to navigate. And I think that's cool that she's owning like this public figure who I don't think she ever met, as a mentor. We talked a bit about Opalite and the like working hard aspect. Father figure, I'm still completely fascinated by, and this is one of those songs in which she is like playing into, well, can I be that, like, what if I can be the man? And I just like how kind of gross it is. Eldest Daughter, I think, is the key to this entire album, because in it, and I talked about, this was on my first listen to that I latched onto this, is she's denying a lot of what she later does on the album, which means you shouldn't take it so literally. So she's like, I'm not a bad bitch and I'm not a savage. All I want is like to be loved. And then on other tracks, she is being that persona. And so to me, that says this, when I'm doing that, that's my coping mechanism. That's not the core of who I am. And sometimes I just want to be me. And sometimes I just want to be seen for who I am, but I have all this responsibility. So I think that song should be paid more attention to in the context of the whole project. Ruin the Friendship, I now, like on my first listen to, I was confused by what it was and what time period we were in. But I really, really love it now. And I didn't realize how it was based on her real life at first. Like her friend, I didn't realize that. And now I have this kind of soft spot for it. And again, I think she's being like a mentor or a role model of like somebody giving advice in this situation. And I'm enjoying that aspect of her because she's like grown into it. This is a new like threshold for her. When she's done it before, it's felt really didactic, like Dear Reader or Marjorie, which I know she's like quoting her grandmother, but her advicey ones, it feels more Polonius than Hamlet, if you know what I mean. Okay, that was such a good reference. Okay, wish list. I can't get over the fact that it sounds exactly like Glitch, and I prefer Glitch as a song. I really love Glitch, so that might take some getting used to. You know what else has felt a little like, I'm not sure how I feel about this? I watched this is the second time I'm talking about Rob Has a Podcast on my Taylor Swift podcast videos, but it's Survivor season. What can I say? So I was watching the recap of Catching Kelsey, which I've not seen. I didn't know anything about, but so this is a dating show that Travis Kelce did, where like 50 women from 50 different states tried to date him in an 8-episode series in 2016. And so in hearing this podcast, I heard a little bit more about like his romantic history, which I wasn't familiar with. And I didn't realize that some of the lyrics on this album are referring to his exes. So it sounds like the kinds of women that he used to date before Taylor might have wanted some of the things on this wish list. And there was one reference in Opalite to like she was in her phone, like that was referring to his ex. And that's just strange to me to think about her referring to her now fiance's ex so specifically, because she's not really done that. She's done that in retrospect. And with Joe Alwyn, she was doing that in like to all of the girls you loved before, like thank you for the growth that you've inspired in my man. All of the exes fights, and without all the exes fights and flaws, we wouldn't be standing here so tall. There's like an acceptance and an admiration and like trying to be the girl's girl, or she is being the girl's girl, I guess, in those situations. But this feels a little like, oh, did you have to go there? I don't know. But, you know, she's only human. And like the reason that she's so relatable is because she says the things that she doesn't have to say. She didn't have to tell us the whole Maddie Healy thing happened at all. We didn't know the extent of it. But she has like graced us with that information so that we have tools to process similar situations or to avoid similar situations. So I'm okay with her being like not like perfect all the time. I'm okay with her making mistakes so that I can be like, oh, I don't think I would do that myself. And by the way, there's this like godliness to her now that like because she's so big and powerful, there's just this I don't know, my priestesshood is in the Hellenic tradition, so I think a lot about how the gods in that time in ancient Greece in like this belief system are like human and messy and have like little cat fights with each other and agendas, and so it feels more like she's taking on that role as this like spiritual figure, because we have to think about how I always say we're under the religion of capitalism. And so our like spiritual figures, when we don't have like a common, like she's the mythology. And I think in the past, she was more like, and I'm not saying these are her beliefs, just like how she's presenting herself. There was more of a like Christian, saintly way that she was presenting herself of like, I will be this perfect, angelic, squeaky clean role model. And then realized like that doesn't actually work. Like that's not sustainable. And now she's like wielding her power with that kind of messiness of the gods. And so even when she's talking about like, oh, I just want to settle down and have kids, it feels like she's being Zeus and Hera rather than like a couple of people, So there's still something, both like relatable about it, because she's talking about something that a lot of people can relate to, but she's also like holding it in a different space that is appropriate to who she is and how much power she wields. Wood we talked about, canceled we talked about, honey. Yeah, so I think here she's doing her like most matriarchal work in being like, hey, let's think about the words that we use to each other, and let's say what we mean. And just like introducing that idea, I think is a really positive thing. It's a lovely song. And then Life of a Showgirl. I haven't spent a lot of time with this song, so I'll really leave it there. But yeah, it's another song where she's like, they said I couldn't and that it would be hard, but I did it anyway, And I think in having Sabrina on it, who is like has the most gorgeous voice, by the way. I just find Sabrina so soothing to listen to, like her albums. And to have like this intergenerational representation on the song is almost like a cautionary tale. It's like bringing someone on for Clara Bow, but Taylor likes to end the albums in this like, and in conclusion, like the cycle goes on. So yeah, I think thematically that's interesting. Okay, I'm sure I'll have more to say about this. Wait, okay, I have one final question for you. So this outfit, which I love, she's called it the Shiny Bug variant and stuff. Where is Shiny Bug? Please, I was really looking forward to seeing Shiny Bug as a lyric or something. I wanted more Shiny Bug, but I've not seen it anywhere. Is it in a poem? If you find her, let me know. So I've written more about this on Substack, zandrathewitch.substack.com, because overall, my mission here, my purpose is to be there for the fans. I've been a fangirl all my life, and I wear that term even though in a gender neutral context, because it's often used derogatively. But like I'm here for you guys. It's tough times, and to care so much about something that should be so inconsequential, and yet it really matters for us. And it also matters in the context of everything that we care about in creating the world that we want to live in. And so I want to be a space where we can hold that in all of its contradictions and be together in that. And so whether you're a Swiftie or you have another fandom that you care about just as much as I care about this one, just know that I am rooting for you and am there for you through all of the complexity that comes along with that. So take care of yourselves. Have a great day. And if you want to join me in Fun Club, please reach out. I would love to have you along. So that's all for today. Goodbye.